Hey guys, Sara here, and welcome back to day number 11 of r/ProRevenge, where today I have 3 stories lined up. More of just just random stories I just found. I try my best to try not to find stories I have heard of before, but I think 2 of them I have heard before. Let's start off in the middle with neighbor kept reporting me to the HOA for petty things. Opportunity not to pay her back, and I took it. I found out today that my revenge was complete, so I came here to share it. My neighbor, who we'll call Kirsty, yeah, Christy, would report us to our HOA for literally anything she didn't like. Trash cans still out on the street at 5 PM on trash day? Reported. Kids bike outside while kids are still playing? Reported. Didn't mow this weekend? Typically I do this Monday nights. Reported Monday morning. Dog barking at 2 in the afternoon as she and her dog walk on the path behind our house? Reported. In many cases, these were not issues covered by the HOA, but due to repeated reporting, the board did fine us, and I had to go to spend the evening waiting for a 2-hour meeting to have them removed. This kept happening and was driving me nuts. Both wife and I spoke to her and tried to find out why she felt this was okay, and she told us, "You just need to do a better job being a good neighbor." Fast forward to this summer. She posts on the neighborhood website sharing a video about the anti-vax movement. In general, the replies are pretty aggressive about telling her she is full of it, but she keeps pushing back, leading to a super long post about how we are wrong and we should listen because she's a doctor. She signs it Dr. Christie, last name, Naturopathic physician. At this point, I am mostly wondering what the heck any kind of doctor would be against vaccines. This made no sense to me, so I started digging. I did find that Christie was listed on a doctor on sites where you can find physicians. I dug more into what exactly a naturopathic physician was and found that in my state of Colorado, they are regulated and required to maintain a license to practice. I checked into it and found out the following. Christie was not in the state database as a naturopathic physician. 2. The board regulates it as an online operating tool. At this point, I took all the information I had, grabbed screenshots, and checked my timeline, and reported her as claiming to be a naturopathic physician when she was not. I then followed up with this post on the neighborhood website. This is a hot button topic for me, and because of that, and Christy signing her post as Dr. last name, I had to dig some. I, for one, am a huge fan of including whole person treatment. I think doctors of osteopathic medicine are wonderful as they work to integrate whole health into the picture with well-researched medical best practices. Naturopathy less so, which is the problem here. One research title here, that link, breaks down a lot of the issues quite well. It is almost 13 years old, but still quite good at explaining the valid concerns. I've overchecked as Colorado does regulate naturopathy, and I could not find any Christie last name listed there. My thought was that it is entirely possible that she holds a license to practice in Colorado and my search wasn't working, but even just searching her first name or zip code or my town or town near us provides no results for a Christie last name. There are 2 naturopathic doctors in town near us. I use this search linked from this page. At this point, Christy locked the post and later deleted the entire thing. I was pretty dang happy that she removed the post, but today it got better. In the mail, I received a copy of the cease and desist letter that Christy received from the state about a month ago. It tells her that she must cease and desist her practice immediately. TLDR, neighbour reported me to the HOA for petty things. Claimed to be a naturopathic physician. Reported to the state board. Neighbour's practice is shut down. I don't know why you would claim to be a doctor. Like, yeah, right. The best thing you could do is like, just put a band-aid on it. Neighbor is an arsehole, so I caused a potentially catastrophic rift in his marriage. So this happened a couple of weeks ago, but I saw the result of it earlier today. A bit of backstory. I live in a predominantly Mormon area, and I am not Mormon. I received quite a bit of criticism from across my street, from my across the street neighbor, because of the religious difference. I'm assuming we've never interacted before he started fucking with me. He currently has 10 children. About a month ago, on trash day, he told one of his kids to kick my trash can over into the street. The kid did it, and I witnessed everything. This is not the first time he has kicked my trash over, and I figured it was a lost cause to go over there and ask them for some decency, more than I already have. That same day, I was reminded by a friend about how I used to have a pen pal when I was younger before I moved. Late at night, I was browsing the web looking for a pen pal when I stumbled across a cool sounding website at prisonpenpals.com. I visited the site, and after clicking through a few dodgy links, was brought to an array of different prisoners who were looking for a pen pal. After doing a bit of browsing from there, I stumbled across a fellow who was on death row for first-degree murder. Feeling bad for this guy, but not wanting to give my address out, you send an email to the guards, print it out and give it to the prisoner, who then write you a letter and delivers it to your physical address. I remembered the arsehole across the street. More out of curiosity than malice, I proceeded to write a very detailed letter about how I am a trapped, secretly gay Mormon man with 10 kids who is looking to start an extramarital affair with a prisoner. I put in his address and send. I had my hilarious petty satisfaction. I expected nothing to come out of this, though he would be getting. I thought he would be going through his mail, see the letter, open it, toss it, and think nothing of it after that. But boy, was I wrong. Of course, with it being a small town, this guy does run a small business here where one of my acquaintances works. I went in just earlier today and chatted with my acquaintance before he told me, "Oh my god, did you hear about Neighbor?" I said no, because I hadn't, and he filled me in on all of the details. Apparently one of the neighbor's kids had brought in the mail, only for his wife to find it and read the letter from this prisoner responding to the joke letter that I wrote. I don't know the specifics of the letter, but I do know that his wife threw a fucking fit when he arrived home and made him pack his bags. My acquaintance informed me that this was the last straw for her. I am still shocked, horrified, and extremely amused by this predicament. I sent a TLDR. I sent a prisoner looking for a pen pal a letter under my neighbor's first name and address. When the letter came back, his wife found it and accused him of cheating on her with a man, as he had apparently done before, and kicked him out. That was like the most simple of the revenges that I've read so far. It's just like, the wife just found the letter instead of the guy, and it's just like, oh. It's like, oh no. And just rips a marriage apart. Just a joke letter, just ripping a marriage apart. Just rip. Oh, yikes. He ruined my sister's only birth experience, so I made sure he never forget her. Obligatory apology for formatting as I'm on mobile. kind of my revenge, kind of my sisters. Both of us really proud. This is going to be long, so TLDR at the bottom. Here's our cast. My sister, we'll call her Sara for the story. Sister's ex, Paul. Ex-boyfriend's new wife, Jane. Ex-boyfriend's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Doe. Oldest brother, Zeke. Our parents, and me. That's quite the cast already. When I was 14 and my older sister, Sara, was 22, we found out that she was pregnant with Paul, her boyfriend of 4 years. That sounded like a really wrong sentence until, clarified. They immediately got engaged and they were really happy for a time. Sara had a horrible pregnancy, about 16 to 18 weeks, and the wonder of creating a human life evaporated within her. She developed hyperemesis, which, if you don't know, is really bad morning sickness. She was constantly in pain. She developed gestational diabetes and just all around hated the experience. Around this time, Paul, the then fiance, started getting sick of the complaining. I believe the argument was, your body is built to do this. It can't be that bad. Bro, you don't know how bad it is to carry a child for 9 months. Like, there's so many factors. Sara was due around Valentine's Day, and Paul's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Doe, were very excited, both about the grandkid and the fact that he could be born on a holiday. She was very against that and really hoped that her son wouldn't be born on a holiday, even one as small as Valentine's Day. Her birthday sometimes falls on Easter and she hates it, because it might make him feel like that's his day, that his day isn't very much about him. Well, Mrs. Doe says something like, well, if you name him Valentine or Valentino, then that would make the day even more special to him. Again, sister hated that idea. Like, why? She thought it was tacky, he'd be bullied for it, and just really didn't like the name Valentino. Paul loved it, but agreed to go with a more average name like Daniel or Jared. Fast forward to February, and she was ready to get this over with. Sara had officially been put on bed rest because while standing or walking, her blood pressure took unexpected spikes and dips. I look back now, and goodness do I feel bad for her. She was doing her best to avoid giving birth on Valentine's Day because, again, she didn't want him born on a holiday. Unfortunately, births happen when they happen, and that baby was going to come on Valentine's Day, whether she wanted him to or not. I remember waiting in the waiting room with my dad, brothers, and Paul, who couldn't stand to be in the delivery room because it was gross. I was so mad that he could have gone in, but wouldn't because he thought my sister was gross while giving birth. Whereas I had to stay outside because I was too young to go in with my mum and other sister. Dad went home with the youngest 2 brothers, while the oldest, Zeke, stayed to watch me and because I refused to leave. 16 hours after Sara went into labour, my little nephew was officially part of the family on the evening of Valentine's Day. Unfortunately, Sara was not okay. She had to have an emergency C-section, and while doing the operation discovered that the back of her uterus, facing her spinal cord, had a very large and very severe, fatally non-cancerous tumour. When I say large, I mean it was twice the size of a standard uterus. The doctors were shocked and didn't understand why nobody had noticed it on an ultrasound. It accounted for her severe back pain and blood pressure issues. The doctors immediately went in for more surgery to remove the tumour, but sadly ended up having to perform a full hysterectomy. This meant that my nephew would be Sara's only child. That's sad. Now, while Sarah was in for surgery, Paul was taking care of everything baby-related to make sure his son was okay. In my 14-year-old self's memory, I remember him being suitably distraught, but I didn't really pay him much mind and spent my time in the waiting room with my mother and other sister. Zeke, however, wanted to be a good future father-in-law and make sure that Paul was okay. He found Paul filling out the baby paperwork on his own, looking, in my brother's words, like he had not a single worry in his mind. Zeke asked why Paul didn't wait for Sarah to fill out the paperwork, as she should have been put out of surgery within the hour. And Paul said he just wanted her to get her rest and heal. That checked out with Zeke, as he was 16 and didn't know any better at the time. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. No, he wouldn't. He knows how much she hates that name. And still, she need to sign the paperwork too. My fellow peoples of Reddit, I regret to inform you that Paul forged Sarah's signature on the paperwork and waited until she was out of surgery to hand said paperwork over. My sweet nephew, that was born on Valentine's Day, was named Valentino on his first official birth certificate. I still to this day don't know why Paul and his family were so insistent about the name. He had even picked out a different one with my sister. And before you ask, no, he was never brought up on forgery charges because his parents were witnesses to her signing the papers, even though they only got there at the last minute. So Sarah dumped him and got her son's name changed a month later. She was unwilling to do split custody with him because that's her son's father, and she wants the kid to know him. But Paul vanished and she never heard anything back, which seemed weirdly out of character to us, until a mutual friend on Facebook was tagged in his wedding pictures 6 months later. Paul had apparently started cheating on her not long after she got pregnant. Sarah was livid, but there was not much she could do, so she filed for child support and continued to live her best life. Until 6 years later. This is where the revenge starts, my friends. So Sarah has been a single mother for the past 6 years and has been amazing at it. At this point in my career, I've been a hairdresser for about 8 months at a local Great Clips. I'm working one day, and who is seated before me but Jane, Paul's wife herself. I take her back for a trim, and she clearly has no idea who I am. That adds up because a mutual friend that still keeps in contact with Paul said that Jane doesn't know a thing. She has no idea about Sarah, that she was the other woman, or that Paul actually has a kid that he's been infrequently paying life support for. She's in the dark on it all. I told herself not to be an ass and treat her like a normal customer, which I did. Now, at this point, Jane was heavily pregnant, so a lot of our conversation was about that. She loved being pregnant, but it was hard. Her husband was so unsympathetic, big shocker, and she was due in 10 weeks, and they still hadn't picked out a name for their baby girl. Ladies and gentlepeople, this was my chance. I asked what kind of name she was looking for, and she said, I wanted something unique and unusual, but not ridiculous like Branton and Lele. You know the ones I'm talking about. And Paul had suggested so many already, and she didn't like any of them. So I, conniving little weasel I am, said, what about Sarah? My sister's name isn't actually Sarah. She was named after an older family member that passed not long before after she was born, but there was no female equivalent for his name, so our parents created one. It's a beautiful name and just what Jane was looking for. She loved it, she stuck by it, and I found out by stalking her Facebook months later that she had put her foot down about it, and that was their daughter's name. Now Paul has a daughter with his ex's name to remind him every day about her, and also to remind him to pay his fucking child support. Little nephew is now 10 years old. Is 10 years old now with a new name and no contact with his biological father, though we do still sometimes call him Val as a family nickname. He likes it, but doesn't want to bring it to school, so it's staying a family nickname. Sara pretends to hate when we call him that in a joking way. As long as he likes it, she doesn't have a problem with it. And she's seeing a new guy who's really great, and like a father to Val. TLDR, my sister's baby daddy forged her signature on paperwork while she was in surgery to name their son a name that she had been avidly against from the beginning, then broke all contact when she dumped him and married the girl he was cheating on her with while she was pregnant. 6 years later, I met his wife and convinced her to name her daughter my sister's name because the wife had no idea my sister and her son exist. That's just like, it's not even, that's like ProRevenge in the most casual way ever. It's like, why not this name? Knowing full well who it was. And then, it'd be funny if the guy was like, why that name? And it's just like, didn't know. Like, he knows that he's paying for it. But he didn't know, he just like forgot her name. It's like, oh my god. How can you be so dumb? How can you be so dumb? And on that note, I'm going to end this episode here. Links will be in the description to my main channel and also the second channel that you're on right now. Links to the playlist and the last episode. Go check it all out. It is madness. It's going to, by the end of it, will be over 200 episodes, I think. Well, actually, it'll be 8 months worth of videos. Always a full term of pregnancy. The full 9 months of pregnancy, yeah. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding, a ding. I'm the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.